Hello to my Girl Scout seniors. Today we're going to be doing the Senior Sky Badge. If you don't know who I am, my name is Nora and I work for the Girl Scouts of Suffolk County in the Programs Department. So today we're going to be learning a little bit about the clouds, sky, sun. We're going to be doing a layered liquid density science project that's going to teach us about the Earth's atmosphere layers. We're also going to be able to make a rain cloud in a jar, which is going to be really exciting. But I'm down at the beach right now, obviously wearing my mask and my gloves, and I just wanted to show you how air pollution really affects the way that the beaches look. Because everyone's been social distancing and having to stay home, it's really affected the way the water is clear. It's bluer than we've ever seen it before. So let me just get showing you that. I'm down at Port Jeff Harbor, and I think it's incredible how clear this water is. It never looks like this, especially in Port Jeff Village. It's usually brown and muddy, usually has some pollution in there. So if you take a closer look, you can actually see the rocks through the water. I think that's amazing. And I'm also going to be showing you how you can help with air pollution by making a recyclable paper project that we're going to be thanking our volunteers for being so helpful during this trying time. And I hope you enjoy. I also want to mention, as I showed you, that I have my mask and my gloves on. If you are going to be leaving the house and you go down to the beach, or you even come down to Port Jeff Harbor, which is a great place to get some fresh air and get some exercise in, take a walk with your family, please do remember to wear your masks and your gloves. It is sent by the state. They told us that we have to be doing that, so please follow those rules so that you can protect yourself and you can protect the others around you, staying safe and healthy. So now I'm on the other side of the dock, over by where most of our boats are actually usually stationed here, but because of social distancing and because everybody has been home, there isn't a lot of boats out here. But on a clear sunny day, the sky above us is a brilliant blue, and in the evening the sunset puts a beautiful show of reds, pinks, and oranges. So a common question that you might ask anyone from 3 years old all the way up until you're a senior in high school, you ask why the sky is blue. Some people think it's the reflection of the ocean on the sky, but that's not true. Sunlight reaches Earth's atmosphere and is scattered in all directions by all the gases and particles in the air. Blue light is scattered more than other colors because it travels at a shorter, smaller waves, and this is why we see blue most of the time. And we are going to be doing a liquid density experiment, so you could see the layers of the atmosphere, which is why you'll see different colors and why the sky is going to be blue in our atmosphere. When we talk about the sky, some things we might think about are maybe careers that people have in the sky. So for instance, somebody that is an air traffic controller, or they create airplanes, they build airplanes that go in the sky. So Another aspect of talking about the sky is learning different types of careers that people have that is based in the sky. For instance, somebody that's an air traffic controller or somebody that builds airplanes, helicopters. So there's many apps on an iPhone or on the internet that you can find that you can actually simulate air traffic and learning how to drive a plane through the sky. But I'm gonna do a small craft with you, and this is a paper glider, and it actually is a little more sturdy than a paper airplane would be. So let me just show you. I'm just gonna do this one in my room, but the one that we make, I'm gonna show you how it goes outside in the air. So for this, I'm going to hold it from the middle, and 1, 2, 3. You see how that glides across the room? Obviously I don't have a lot of space to show you in here, but after we make the one that we're doing right now, I'll do it outside. To make this paper glider, what you'll need is a plastic straw. You don't want to use anything too heavy, so don't use a aluminum one or a chopstick. You can use a barbecue skewer, or I just recommend using a plastic straw. I know those are kind of hard to come by, but if you have one, that would be great. If not, you can always use, you can even also use a piece of rolled up paper that's about the size of a straw. You'll also need some thick paper, so like an index card, cardstock. Construction paper is a little too light to be using, so you might not want to use that. I'm using a thick piece of artist paper. This is actually sketch paper, and it has a nice thick feeling to it. You'll also need a ruler, a pair of scissors, and something to mark your paper. I'm going to use a Sharpie so that you can see it on the camera. And you'll also, where'd my tape go? You'll also need some Scotch tape after I find it out here. Here it is. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to measure out 3 pieces on here. So what you'll want to do is measure this 1 inch height and 5 inch width. So that's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to mark off my 1 inch. And then we're going to make this 5 inches thick. So 3 pieces, 1 inch height, 5 inches in its width. And then you'll take your scissors and you will cut those pieces out. Now my straw it's a bendy straw, so I'm going to cut off the top part down to where the bendy part ends. So I'm just going to cut that off. Now the next part is take 2 of your pieces and you'll mark off about a 1/2 inch on each side. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you'll do it the long ways. So about a 1/2 inch on one side and 1/2 inch on the other. And you'll just make those tiny little marks just because it's going to show you where you can overlap these pieces of paper, because you're going to be making the larger hoop from here, and you want it to continue to keep a nice loop shape. So now you're going to tape that down like so. Right now I'm going to once again overlap it about a 1/2 inch and tape it. Okay, so now you have a nice loop. Same thing with your smaller one, about a 1/2 inch, a little overlap. You can eyeball this one just because you have one piece. Okay, so now you have 2 loops. Now we're going to take our straw, and you're going to make sure that your straw is going all the way into the other side. You can see how I'm going to tape it. And you'll tape that down. Okay. And now you'll tape down the other side. Now you want to make sure that you're keeping your other loop in the same position as your bigger loop. So it's kind of hard to believe that this will actually work, but because it's round, it'll prevent your glider from going off track. You might need a couple of pieces of tape because mine almost fell off. I want it to be pretty sturdy. Okay, and there you have it. You have your glider. So let's go outside and toss this into the sky. Okay, so I'm actually on a balcony, so that gives me some height. So I'm gonna hold it from the center, and I'm just going to throw it into the grass. Oh, that one didn't work too well. Let's try this one. See how it's gliding? And as you can see, my glider didn't work the first time, but the second one worked pretty well. Like I said, they're not going to be perfect, but if you keep practicing, getting the hang of it, it will start to glide. And it's also a little bit better when there is a windy day. So we discussed that to the human eye, we can see the sky, you can see oceans, you can see the beach, you can see the ground, the environment, but you can't see all of Earth's atmosphere, all the layers. So when we look around the sun, you see a bright white light coming off of the sun shining down on us, but it's actually a rainbow. It has all different colors. So the reason why we only see the color blue is because blue on the spectrum has a shorter wavelength. So when it goes through the atmosphere, that's the only color that we see first. All the other colors won't really appear to us until it's a little bit later at night once the sun starts to set, because there's a different lighting, and then you can see those reds, those pinks, and all those beautiful colors. Now when it rains, you usually see a rainbow if the sun is right after that. That's because the rain is causing a prism effect, which is causing us to see all of the colors of the rainbow. So in this liquid density project, we will be doing liquid density. What you'll need is a mason jar or a clear jar like this. I'm going to be using a little bit bigger one just so you can see it better on video. And the exact order that we will be doing is dirt, some honey, corn syrup, some dish soap, and you'll need some water. I added a little bit of red food coloring so that you could see it a bit better. When you're doing this, you want to go really slow just because you want to make sure that the liquids aren't mixing together. So we'll usually pour it on the side and let it drip down. This may take some time, but it's definitely worth the wait. I also got some little containers so they could make it a little bit easier for me to pour the liquids into the container. So I decided that I'm actually going to do this in my mason jar just because I don't want to waste materials, which is a smart choice. So the first layer that we will be adding is representing the earth. Okay, so that would be our dirt. I also mixed some sand into this because I had some leftover sand from one of my other programs. So I'm going to pour that right into the mason jar. Like I said, this is going to represent the earth. Okay. And I'm going to stick my hand in there. Actually, my hand does not fit in there. So let's see what I can come up with. All right, I have a little paint bottle, and I'm going to actually just push this down just so that particles of the dirt won't surface to the top of the liquid. Okay, perfect. All right, now my next layer is going to be my honey. And like I said, I'm putting this towards the side to let it slowly drip down onto my dirt. I'm going to need to use a little bit more honey. And the reason I don't have these measurements is just because everybody has a different type of container, so I don't want to give you too big of a idea of how much you should put it down, just because everyone's is different. Okay, and the honey is going to represent the troposphere. This is where we live and where clouds and weather are. And the next part is we are going to add the corn syrup, and that is representing the stratosphere. Now I have dark corn syrup, which will make it a little easier for us to see the difference in the liquids. You can add food coloring if you have light corn syrup, but I have dark, so it should work pretty well. And the stratosphere is where airplanes fly, just above the clouds. Okay, so I'm going to add my corn syrup. So it might be a little difficult to see, but it'll be fine. Okay. And now we're going to do the mesosphere, which is our dish soap. Again, do it down the side. Okay. And I forgot one ingredient. You are going to need some vegetable oil. But I'm going to add the water first, and this is the thermosphere. So like I said, I added some food coloring just so it would be a little more clear. And many of Earth's satellites are on this level. So I'm going to add this. So I went and grabbed my vegetable oil. I'm actually using canola oil. Either will work. You might not want to use olive oil just because it's a little darker. And because I'm using such a small mason jar, but yours will probably be bigger and you probably have smaller hands than I do. So it'll be a little easier for you to get in there. So I also have a couple of pipettes that I'm gonna do, that I'm gonna use to add the water and the oil. So like I said, we're doing the water, and that it represents the Earth's thermosphere. So I just want to add this to the side. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit hard to see. So when I show you in the camera, I'm going to turn my flash on so you can see right through it. Okay. And now I'm going to add my oil right on top. All right, so let's get a closer look. So it's still a little difficult to see in the video, but if you could see, the bottom layer was the earth, right? And then the honey's below that, and then it's a little bit lighter on top, which you have our soap and our honey and our corn syrup. And then the red part is the water, which is the thermosphere, and then the vegetable oil. So because of the difference in the density of these liquids, they're able to layer on top of each other. Clouds are formed when water vapor rises into the air and condenses onto tiny particles of dust. So when billions of those droplets come together, a visible cloud forms. And over time, the droplets and crystals that make up a cloud can attract more water than to themselves. So when water droplets grow heavy enough, gravity pulls them down as raindrops. So what's really exciting is that we can't really see what's happening on top of a cloud, but we can create a cloud in a jar that will simulate us being able to see what a cloud really, it's a simplistic model of how it actually rains. So what you'll need for this project is some water. I filled it up about 3/4 of the way, and I also got some more cool water and mixed it together with some blue food coloring. You can choose any color that you'd like. Obviously this isn't a realistic cloud, but you can use blue, purple, whatever color you want. And you'll need some shaving cream. So fill up your container 3/4 of the way with cool water. And now I'm gonna take my shaving cream, and you're gonna put shaving cream right on top of your water. This will represent our cloud. Okay. And you'll want a pipette to drop your water, your rain on top. So observe what you see happening. So I'm just going to keep dropping little droplets of blue onto my shaving cream. And this will take a couple minutes, but watch what's going to happen. Oh, it's already starting to go. Come a little closer. So I just zoom in a little bit more so you can see what's going on. So you see how the shaving cream cloud could not handle so much moisture, so now the droplets of the food coloring are going in to the atmosphere. This would be a fun activity that once we get back to Girl Scouts, or if you have any younger siblings, this would be a fun little activity to show them how clouds really work. And you could mix and match different colors, and they'll mix into a really pretty rainbow inside of here. See how it slowly, and that's how a rain cloud works. We are celebrating Earth Day this week, and we're also celebrating all of our volunteers. It's Volunteers Appreciation Week. So we're going to be doing a cute little message for our volunteers to thank them for all the hard work that they've been putting in during this crazy time. So another way that we can actually help the Earth's environment and the sky is to prevent pollution, and one way that we could do it in our own homes is by recycling. So I'm going to show you a cute, quick little project about recycling papers or scrap papers, even brown paper bags, newspapers, anything that you might get rid of that is paper consistency. You don't want to be using magazines because those have a coating on it. So you could use, you might get like grocery coupons in the mail. These are made of paper consistency. You can use leftover paper bags. That's what we're going to be using. And I also added an old lesson plan that I had from my college days, and I cut that up. I didn't need that anymore, so I'm going to recycle it, and you are going to recycle this paper into new paper. So it might not look like much yet, but what you'll need for this project is a bowl to soak your paper with, a rolling pin, maybe some parchment paper or a screen, some towels, something super absorbent, and you'll want a tray underneath that to catch any extra water so that you don't make a mess. So this is a pretty simple project, and you could do this anytime, but I prefer you at least try it this week so that you can When you make your new paper, you'll write a little message to thank your volunteers, your troop leaders, people that have been helping you out, and it'll be reincarnated into new paper. So this is one that I made the other day. This would be your final project. Obviously, because it's a little rough at the end, I'm going to trim mine down to make it a perfect rectangle. Okay, so now you have your own little paper. And we're gonna actually paint these, so you can grab some paints if you'd like. You can use markers, crayons. You can even use just a Sharpie if you'd like and draw some designs on your paper and write a little message, and we'll get into that later. So the first step is to grab a bowl, and you're going to fill that with warm water, and you'll trim your paper in very, very small pieces. So I already got mine started, and it's been soaking. You'll soak it for about 20 minutes because you want to get that nice and saturated with water. So I started that, but let me complete some with some pieces of paper just to show you how small you're going to cut it. You could also rip it if you'd like. It's just a little easier to trim it. So you don't want to cut big pieces like this. You want them to be very small. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to make a pulp out of it. Oh, and on our website we also listed that you'll need a blender. You can also use a NutriBullet, Magic Bullet. You could use a hand mixer. Just something for you to be able to mix it together and make a pulp from it. All right, so I continued cutting up the paper. I'm gonna get my hands in there, get those nice and saturated. Then you will be putting in your blender on a pulse or a mix until this gets to a consistency of kind of like a paper oatmeal. Okay, so I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna turn the volume off because it gets pretty loud when you put the blender on, but you'll be able to see how this is going to form. Okay. So you can use a towel to do this. I just have an extra sifter that I use for crafts. So this will help me get some of the water out. But like I said, it would be kind of like an oatmeal consistency. It's kind of gross, but it's gonna make for a really nice paper. So I'm gonna put this in my sifter, and look how much water comes out of there. Okay, so you wanna get as much water as you possibly can out of there. If you're using a screen, you can use a screen to do this. And now I'm gonna take the rest of my slop and I'm gonna put that right on the wax paper parchment. So I'm trying to get as much as I can. Probably use a cup. Just gonna use a cup to help me get some of this out. Okay. Again, I'm gonna push that through, drain that water as much as I can. You'll start to feel it form once you get most of the water out. You still got plenty of water to get out of that paper. Super absorbent. So now I'm peeling that out of there. Move my bowl out of the way. I'm going to transfer this on my parchment paper. I'm going to use my fingers to kind of mold that to an even thickness. You want your paper to be a nice thickness. If you push down really hard, you'll also notice that there's plenty of water left there. Okay. Now I'm going to close my parchment paper up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press down with my hands, flatten it a little bit, and then I'm going to use my rolling pin, and I'm going to push down nicely, because this is also going to squeeze some of that water out. Drain that a little bit. Okay. So what's great about using parchment paper is it's really easy to peel off of the paper when it's wet. So I'm going to also use my towel to get some of that dampness out of there. Alright, so now what I'll do is I'm going to hold up my parchment paper, and I actually have a nice sheet of an absorbent cloth here, and I'm going to gently flip it over and push down and smooth out a couple more times, and I'm going to peel off my paper, my parchment paper over there. And you can also push together some of those pieces if they got separated. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to let your piece of paper, now don't worry if it's not even, because like I said, you're going to cut it after it's completely dry. So you'll want to let this sit for about 24 hours in a dry, warmer area. If it's not sunny out, you can always leave it out for a few hours, and then you can also use a hair dryer to kind of speed up the process. Once it completely dries, you'll have your recycled paper. So let me dry off this. I'm actually going to reuse my parchment paper to make it a little damp, but that's okay. I'll fold it over. That's the drier side. Okay, and now I want to paint my paper a nice color. So I'm going to put a little bit of white acrylic paint with a little bit of purple. Make a light purple one. Brush and mix together. Okay, and I'm going to paint my paper with the acrylic. Now, if you decide to do more than one color on your piece of paper, in terms of a background color, because you could draw pictures on here too, just make sure that when you rinse off your brush that you completely dry it before putting it back in the paint, because you don't want to add too much water to your paint because it'll seep into the paper and then you're gonna have to wait for it to dry for a longer time. So mine's completely dry, so I'm doing a nice paint layer. Do a nice solid color. I'm also going to have to dab it a little bit just to get in those creases. Right, so I'm going to actually take this to my hair dryer and dry it up a little bit, and we'll be right back. So you'll take a little bit more time doing this, but I painted it, I added a couple stars and wrote a nice little message. Volunteers are the stars that light up our Girl Scout sky. So what I'd like you to do is to take your new handmade paper, recycled paper, and write a nice message to your volunteers, and maybe have a family member take a picture of you holding up the sign and send it to your Girl Scout volunteers. All right, seniors, so I hope that you had a great time today learning about the sky. I was very excited to do this program with you, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good day.